from a seed. And so a seed sprouts a stem. This stem is a vine. That vine, if it's a tree, it turns into hard wood. But nevertheless, that same vine is still the makeup that they're within the tree. I guess the vine would turn into the tree's lifelines. You cut a tree in half and you see that it has rings in it, and this is the staples of what the vine turned into. I fancy it as a cocoon that is broken. It's the merging state from the inside of the cocoon to it breaking. That is what the remnants are of a tree. Rings are. But at any given point in time, it's still that vine inside of the tree, the stem that germinated outside of the seed. And so that's with this, that the branches off of the tree are of a lesser degree than the initial vine. When you're speaking of what a reverse engineering is, it's the inside of the tree, the remnants of the vine, that are what are nourishing to the tree in its full glory of, its fruits that it may bear or it may not bear if it isn't a tree that's a good one. That's what Jesus said. You judge a tree by its fruits. And so with this reverse engineering inside politics, if you're playing identity politics, which people who are ghetto inside the halls of Congress make everything an act of Congress to have brownie points in identity politics by playing victim as they're less fortunate. And this is what is just easy for you to identify politics with, because politics are like not in base 10, so they're comprehensive. It's just that ever since Donald Trump got into office, he was so easy to understand because he was very polarizing and he got everyone interested because it made it seem easy, because he was so common sense, whether it was good or bad, that people got interested in politics. And now it's this like first wave of people who are just seeing politics for the first time, that all these people in the halls of Congress are acting ghetto and turning everything into identity politics, so it appears to be in base 10. And the journalist, of course, writing things that are easy to identify with, like climate change for an environment, are fabricating things so that lines are thwarted. So I mentioned the river bend. I mentioned the sky having thunderstorms in them everywhere around the world, at least 7 of them. I mentioned the compactness plates under the sea. These are all things that have breaks in them, whether the clouds have electrons in the clouds that get disjointed and fracture, making a electron of lightning, or earthquake, rupturing the crevices of compactness plates, making ripples. Ripples, ripples, ripples from breaks, breaks, fractures, fractures. Blades of grass. See, there's breaks in grass. Excuse me. And this is where I was showing earlier, frost culminates where there's cavities in the grasses having dimples in them. Hard to see, but this is a low-res camera. Give me a break. And we're not even in the... got a close-up of my face. I hope you enjoyed that. I have poruses, and there's cavities in there too. So, and my nose has giant poruses. These are why I have blackheads in my nose. It's so embarrassing when I have toothpaste on my face and I don't know it, so I have to throw away the whole video. Or in the wintertime, it's so cold outside where my face gets frozen. And so then there might be spit on my face because I spit a lot. And it's really windy in Wisconsin because we're flat in the Midwest. And so then I'll have spit frozen in my face. I'll have toothpaste crusted on my face, and I won't notice it because it's so cold outside. And these are examples of my nervous system being either overreactive from all the cars around me, always, looking at me, stare as I enter the center. It's a Snoop Dogg bar. I hope it don't get copywritten. It's so funny. You can quote people and not get copywritten, but the moment that it's over music, you're liable for publishing rights to get you sued into oblivion. But nevertheless, the nervous system being oddly similar to cavities in the dirt where frost culminates because it finds cold spots more than ones at the tops of the grass. But snow is lighter than culminations of frost, so it gathers at the tops of grass when it finds a weird surface tension, which is nothing more than monkeys in a barrel connecting their arms. And you find a bunch of them connected. That's what, at the tops of these blades of grass, the snowflakes, they culminate and achieve this weird surface tension. And so you can find them, if there's enough snow that's fallen, a excessive amount of snow at the tops of the blades of grass opposed to the frost at the bottom cavities of the dimples in the ground that hold up the grass blades. So I fancy it to how in a river bend there's abundance of life, because inside of its bend of the river, its interior has a whole bunch of life microbes in it, because it has so much activity where it's accelerated and it's constantly eating into the bend. And so this is shown as over my right shoulder, where there's a flowers or flowering, because this bend has accumulated a similar stance where there's more activity in its ridging. So it's probably more minerals that built up. But it's the shading here where the shading has less of stuff, because at a certain part of day it gets less sunlight. And if you're in the halls of Congress, you know the exact timing of when elections are happening, so that you can make it look needy and necessary for your primal identity politics to shine the best at the right time, or the days of false flag events, having a whole bunch of setups occur in order for something to happen to make it motivated in a certain stance. I fancy this to the ocean sea ridge. There's a lot of activity in the ocean sea ridge because there's this gas that pops up from the heating. And so there's these vent animals that feed off that. Another example of activity where there is action because of change. And also, it's like a dog whistle when there's earthquakes. At any given time, there's like a certain amount of thunderstorms happening on the Earth's sky. But for the Earth's land, there's these capacitance plates, and they're always rubbing against each other. So I know there's S wave and P waves. These are things that make the ground move as if they're waves in nature, making the solid ground act like it's a wave, even though it's a solid state. But the funny thing is that these capacitance plates are always shaking stuff. So it's almost as if everything on the ground is always shaking, even though it isn't. It would seem as though it would be like a dog whistle. We would more than need P and S waves to represent this, but it just hasn't made up a scale of that yet. So it's outside of what a normalcy would be like a base 10.